I wanted to talk briefly about the city's Housed in Cambridge campaign. Today's panel is the third panel that the city is hosting as part of our Housed in Cambridge Information to Open Doors campaign. Prior panels included affordable housing, understanding options, opportunities, and pathways, and fair housing and basic tenant rights. In case you missed either of those and you would like to listen to them, they're recorded and they will soon be on the city's website. Housed in Cambridge is a year-long multi-department outreach, education, and information campaign to promote and inform residents about housing-related resources and services. The city manager's office, community development, Human Rights Commission, and the Department of Human Services Multi-Service Center are working together on this comprehensive platform. And it's important to note that this campaign would not be possible without the support of many provider partners in the city who offer affordable housing opportunities and housing-related resources and services. The goal of Housing Cambridge is to help centralize the many housing resources available and hopefully make it easier for you, our residents, to access information that you need about any housing-related need or topic. The campaign will include a social media campaign, an interactive online housing guide and story map, informational materials, and additional discussion and trainings on specific housing-related topics, including, when we're able to gather again, some in-person events. So please share this information with your family, your friends, and neighbors, and stay connected through the city's website and social media platforms. Finally, I want to acknowledge that the Housing Cambridge campaign is really building on work that city departments like Community Development Department and the Human Rights Commission have been doing for many years. In particular, in April, they have always organized an annual Affordable and Fair Housing Resource Day event as part of the Fair Housing Month. The one-day event, which convened dozens of housing organizations and service providers, was supported and made possible by the lending institutions represented here today. So we thank them for their past support and for being here again today. So we're going to begin with each panelist introducing themselves and describing where they work and what they do. And then we'll move into some prepared questions, and then we will take questions from the audience. So we'll begin with Mike Horrigan, Mortgage Loan Officer from Cambridge Savings Bank.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Mike Horrigan. I'm a mortgage loan officer, vice president at Cambridge Savings Bank. Cambridge Savings Bank is an 187-year-old institution serving the communities of Cambridge, Market, Massachusetts. My role there, and I've been there for 17 years this June, is to originate mortgage loans, to originate new loans to the bank for people that want to buy homes. And part of my job is educating home buyers on that process, exactly what it means to buy a home, how to do it, and all implications of it. So I look forward to talking to you guys more. And thank you very much for having me again.
Thanks for being here. Jennifer Jonasson, Program Manager from Homeowners Rehab.
Hi, thank you for having me and having this important panel. Homeownership is so vital to our community. And as a result of that, Homeowners Rehab is a 47-year-old affordable housing agency developing and designing affordable homes for low-income families. The department that I manage is called the Home Improvement Program, which is a department of the agency that restores, renovates, and allow eligible Cambridge homeowners to remain safely in their homes. And we look at a variety of areas to help individuals. We first look at health and safety. We cure a lot of different issues around code violations. We do renovations, we do upgrades, we facilitate the process through letter removal and also electrical upgrades. So we do a lot of work to help an existing homeowner safely remain in their home and bring their home to a beautiful state. That's what we do.
Wonderful, thank you. Michelle Miser, Assistant Vice President from Cambridge Trust.
Hi all, my name is Michelle. As you know, with Cambridge Trust. Cambridge Trust has been an institution in Cambridge for 130 years, And I am a loan originator working specifically with first-time home buyers with over 20 years working with first-time home buyers, starting out as an advocate and educator, and now with Cambridge Trust as a loan originator, helping folks to access financing for their first home.
Wonderful, welcome. Ethan Solomon, Home Improvement Program Manager from Justice Start Corporation here in Cambridge.
Hi, my name is Ethan Solomon. Thanks for having me on this panel. I'm a program manager, as you mentioned, for Justice Start's Home Improvement Program. Justice Start is a nonprofit. It's been operating in Cambridge for over 45 years. And our organization's services range from education and training to resource development, real estate development, and property management, and mediation and conflict resolution. The program that I manage, the Home Improvement Program, similar to Jennifer, we provide technical assistance and no to low interest loans to income qualified homeowners in Cambridge, really with an eye on keeping existing homeowners able to stay in their homes in Cambridge. Our program is federally funded through HUD CDBG grants, and those are administered through the City of Cambridge. Homeowners and landlord investors in 1 to 4 unit buildings can apply for our program, and we help qualify them for financing, scope projects, identify code issues at the property, and secure competitive contractors to help bid on the work. So once a contractor is selected, we would help provide the technical oversight through the project's life cycle. So thanks for having me.
Wonderful, thank you. And last but definitely not least, Tim Tuttle, Residential Loan Officer from East Cambridge Savings Bank. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Maura. My name is Tim Tuttle. I am the loan officer with the East Cambridge Savings Bank. We've been in business only 168 years. So I guess we have one bank beat and one we're still behind. And it will always be that way. So all three of the banks are great banks here in Cambridge. So I'm not worried about that. I've been a loan officer for 36 years myself. And I run the bank's first-time home buying programs, which are really seminars similar to this. We run them on a Microsoft Teams, which is similar to Zoom, if you haven't seen that. We used to do them in person, but our goal is to educate the home buyers as to what they're getting into and what they can expect during the process. And I hope to do that same here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And thank you, everyone. Really, you have so much information and knowledge. So I know that folks are going to learn a lot today. I'm going to, as I said, ask a few questions first of the lenders and then to the nonprofit providers, and then we'll address the remaining questions that have come through the Q&A chat. So first, for the lenders, buying a home for first-time homeowners can seem overwhelming. What are some common challenges associated with homeownership and the home buying process? And if it's okay, we'll start with Michelle.
Sure. So I think one of the key things to think about, there's many layers to the process of getting ready to get financing to buy your first home, is to think about your work history. Sometimes we forget about that piece, but there is a need for a 2-year work history. And sometimes people think, oh, I haven't been at my current job for 2 years, so I won't qualify. But you don't need to necessarily be in that exact same job. You could have a similar type of work. So it's very important to have 2 years of work history you can document, and it's in the same industry, essentially. That can include education. If you're in college or studying a certain course of education that led to the particular job that you have, we can utilize that time that you were in school as part of that work history. Also, there may be instances where you were preparing and putting the pieces together, but it wasn't a direct link. Sometimes there's gaps in that work history and we just need an explanation. And even today, I was working with a first-time home buyer who has an opportunity to buy an affordable property. And upon first look, it looked as though she only had 2 months of work history. And once we continued to talk and sort of dig through everything that she had been doing, we came to realize that we could piece together that 2 work history with the time she was in law school, with the various legal jobs that she had had, the time period where she was studying for the bar, then studying, she took a class for the bar, took a test. So there's all these pieces, but if we had not had that conversation to put that all together, we would have assumed that she would not have a 2-year work history and she would have to wait a fairly significant amount of time until she was ready. So it's really important as you start to think about and put the pieces together to really talk with your loan officer to make sure what your particular profile looks like and will that work. And it's usually conversations, explanations that become very helpful in moving forward.
Incredibly interesting. Thank you, Michelle. Mike, do you want to add to some of the challenges and some discussion?
I do. And one of the ones that I want to talk about is student loans. And even especially in this current climate of COVID, student loans have become even more difficult during this time of COVID, because those of you that have student loans know that the government's probably not requiring any monthly payments right now on those loans. But a lender still does need to consider a monthly payment on those student loans, even if you're not required to currently make a payment. So I specifically been seeing that over the last year. You have a lot of first-time home buyers that have student loan debt that we still have to consider those monthly payments. And it's an extra challenge now because those monthly payments aren't on the credit report. And those student loans could have a really significant impact on how much you qualify for. So piggyback on what Michelle said, there is really important to talk to a loan officer about these things. Applying online and not having a conversation with somebody is really not something you want to do with this type of stuff. You really need to talk to a professional, and they can encourage you and help you to figure out how to handle those student loans. Like we had one customer that had a lot of student loans, and I was able to talk to her about potentially refinancing those student loans for a lower monthly payment. Because ultimately, that's what we're most concerned as a bank, is how those monthly payments for your student loans affect your ability to repay that loan. So she was able to refinance those student loans for a lower monthly payment and get into a house because of it. So important, very important part of the process, student loans, and many first-time homebuyers have student loans.
Terrific. Thank you for that. And Tim, I'm sure you have something to add.
I do. I just want to talk about the amount of money that people need to start this process. Obviously, you need some type of down payment. We have programs, 1 and 1.5%. We actually have one program with 1% down payment on single family homes. If you are what they call a American hero, which is the teachers, the firefighters, the police, the nurses, and they've expanded that. And so anybody who works in a hospital setting, anybody who works in a nursing home, and that goes all the way, like in a hospital, from the janitorial staff up to, but excluding the doctors. Strangely enough, the doctors have their own program. So you could be support staff, 1% down payment is available. That does have other things that you have to meet, minimum criteria as far as credit and so forth. But there are a lot of programs with 1.5% down payment to 3% down payment. But don't forget closing costs and extra costs, such as escrows have to be set up for taxes, and you have to buy homeowners insurance up front. So if you just think, on the top of your head, 3% down payment, maybe you're taking 3% of a sales price. It is always a bit more than that after you figure out closing costs and stuff. And that's, again, where you can talk to somebody like Michelle or Mike, myself, and, say, gee, I'm looking at this type of property. What kind of cash do I really need? You hear all these different stories. And I don't want to throw out a certain dollar amount today because everybody's going to be a little bit different. So the best thing is, when you're talking with your loan officer, say, if I'm buying this property at this price, what am I really going to need? And go from there. And I think that would be a big help. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing, is not only the down payment, but the extra cost, the closing cost, the escrows, the prepaid items. So that It's good.
So important, all of this. And what I heard a lot was talk to your loan officer.
Yes.
Get more information from each of you, and that there are ways to kind of address any concerns and ways to overcome those challenges. Refinancing, knowing upfront what the cost will be, and communicating. I wonder if you can each expound a little bit more on some things that you can do to overcome some of the challenges. Michelle?
Sure. I really think one of the key things is when you're starting out is to take a home buying class. Cambridge does a wonderful class where you can really get an opportunity to learn about the entire process. You get to learn from experts in the field, and you have an opportunity to ask questions. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So you think, okay, I don't have any questions, but you're in a Zoom class, and eventually, hopefully, we'll be back in person one of these days. You also get to learn from those in the class who are also asking questions, and lots of great topics get raised so that, because it's very detailed. And then you also get an opportunity to get insight into what resources might be available to you. Sometimes resources are available based on household income. You may have an opportunity to get some resources for financial assistance, access to certain affordable homeownership properties. So there's a wide array of information available and resources available to people.
Terrific. Mike, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, and one of those biggest resources is the lender. That's us, the three of us. Like, that's what we do. And, I've often looked at myself. I think in a previous life, I always wanted to be a teacher, and I ended up being a lender. But I do consider myself partly a teacher too. And I'm here to teach you how to buy a house. And that's very important to me. And you should take the time as a consumer to really work with a loan officer that you understand will spend that time with you, educating you about the process. We are a great resource. We know lots of people in the industry through home improvement programs, affordable housing, places to go. We're a great resource, and use us as that, and encourage you to find a loan officer that will spend the time with you as a resource. So call around, make phone calls, ask questions, but we are a great resource. We have a lot of tools available to us, and use us for it.
Thank you. I think that's so important, having people feel comfortable knowing that they don't need to know everything. As Michelle said, you don't know what you don't know. And I think what you're driving home, Mike, is that point, and that there are people that do know that. And I would just add personally that I know it can be incredibly confusing. I've been in the housing field for a very long time. I'm not a home ownership expert by any means, but everything in housing, unfortunately, is confusing. So use folks who are out there as resources. And Tim, I know that I'm sure you would like to add to this.
I would, I had mentioned down payment as one of the big hurdles, and there is assistance out there. The city of Cambridge has a program, down payment assistance, which is a very nice program, up to 6% of the purchase price. And again, these programs do have some limitations or some guidelines that you have to fit into, and but that's one I know, and not every town and city has one. For instance, there's a North Shore Consortium, which runs out of Malden, but that covers a lot of the towns north of Cambridge. And again, they have a very similar down payment assistance program. And I think if you are looking in a specific town, you might not stay in Cambridge, contact City Hall in the towns or cities that you're looking at, and the housing department or the redevelopment department can point you in the right direction. We also see down payment assistance come from churches and civic groups sometimes. And these things are typically known by the local city halls, or, I hear of them once in a while. The church thing is usually, I forget the exact name of it, but it's more of a pooled money thing. And we see that with some of the ethnic groups, they pool their money and they get to a certain point and all the money goes to one guy. It's like winning the lottery. And then you still have to pay into it. And then sooner or later, somebody else has enough money to buy it. It's a great way of doing it. And it's a lot of faith-based thing. And that's an acceptable source of funds. So, don't give up because you don't have a down payment until you investigate all of these available programs out there.
Fascinating. That's,
It is.
yeah, it sounds like, again, learn from the experts and be creative. So the last question I have for lenders before we tap into the expertise of the nonprofit panelists and homeownership, keeping up a home. Can you break down some of the barriers, each of you, that folks should, some of the essentials that someone should know about before deciding to buy their first home? Sort of, some very basic to-dos or to think about when they're starting to consider to buy. Michelle, we might as well start with you again.
Sure. One thing I think is important to consider is sort of costs to your, in terms of how much debt or how much of your income can go towards that loan amount. And so many of us, when you're living in an urban area, you're looking at condominiums as your first property. And one of the key pieces with buying a condo is that there will be condo fees. And the amount of that fee varies. It could be, $100, $150 a month, or it might be upwards of $500, $600 a month. But it can really have a range. And the higher that fee, and one fee is not necessarily good or bad. It's sort of knowing what's involved in that fee. What does that fee cover? And but it does have an impact on how much loan amount you can qualify for. So the higher that condo fee is, may have an impact on how much loan amount you can qualify for. So it's something to look at when you are looking at properties. What is the amount of this fee? How much is it? And if you do already you've worked with the loan originator and you have a pre-approval already, you may want to check back in with them to say, if it's a little higher, but you feel okay with what it covers, can I still qualify for this loan amount with this level of fee? And that sort of gets back to having a relationship with that loan officer and really communicating with them to make sure that you're in a good space.
Thank you. And Tim, we'll let you bring us home.
Okay. One thing I think is, we're loan officers and we go by numbers all the time. And, typically we would allow, what we call the housing expense, which is the principal and interest on the loan, the real estate taxes, the insurance, and that condo fee should be roughly around 33% of your gross monthly income. Now, for some people, who are currently paying rent, they're going to see what's known as payment shock from rent to this 33% if they go that high. So what I always like to do is ask people what level are they comfortable paying out on a monthly basis before I tell them what my answer is. Because very often, they see my number and they go, oh God, we buy this big house, but it's going to strap them. It's going to cringe on their lifestyle. We don't know as lenders what they do, what they have as hobbies, what they like to do. Perhaps they need to travel back to, see parents in another country or out of state. There's all sorts of reasons that money goes elsewhere. Childcare is a huge expense that we don't, as lenders, really tend not to look at that a lot, but we see people, who have huge childcare expenses, and that 33% may not fit that. So these are all things, when you're talking to your lender, bring up these other things. I always try to ask those other questions. Is this going to change your lifestyle a little bit if we go to this large monthly payment? Because I don't have to write the check, the borrower does. So, I would love to write the checks, but I have my own to pay. That's plenty enough. So, but you want to stay within your budget and you want to be comfortable in the house that you buy so that you can enjoy it. You don't want to be up nights saying, what have I done? And this is going to, kill me. You don't want that. You want a nice house. So.
Thank you again to all three of you, and I know we'll have more questions from the folks who are listening in. Before we move to that, boy, there's so much to think about just before buying it or when buying, but there's also a lot to think about once you buy it. Homes need upkeep, whether it's at the time of purchase or once you're settled in. So we're going to first start with Jennifer, and I just wonder, can you talk about, is there an amount a prospective buyer or owner should budget for home improvements, especially when they're starting out? Or other things, sorry.
Yeah, so in terms of budgeting, it really would depend on the amount of work that's necessary to bring the house up to code or to get it back into a safe health and safety way. But we have requirements to the city of Cambridge regarding, if a house is a condo or 2-family or 3-family, what the amount is that should go towards that home. And with that, we certainly do a lot of leveraging, meaning getting other funds to supplement the current loan that they may be borrowing. So we try to be very creative around, what is necessary. We prioritize the work that will ensure that the home, say for example, somebody bought a first home. I'm sure that the home must pass health and safety. It must pass, code violations, must pass that in order for it to be sold. And so the next thing is, okay, they may want to improve it. They may want to upgrade it. They may want to change some things around in the home. So I guess we would want to know that the home might have at least 80% LTV. When we do the loan, we want to make sure that they're able to live there and they're able to live there safely, and the home has no lead in it. Weatherization issues that may come up. So I guess it really would depend on what the homeowner might need. So for example, a condo in a single family is a $50,000 max. However, we can always waive that if the work that they have to get done warrants an additional amount to borrow. And again, we also always look at value, and we also look at need and prioritization of work. So there's a lot of creative things that we get to do working together with the homeowner to ensure that they live in a home that they enjoy, because everybody wants to buy a new home and make it look really nice. But it really would depend on, what their home need and the prioritization of the work that's to be done.
Thank you so much. Ethan, would you like to add to that, what your thoughts are?
Yeah, sure. So as Jennifer mentioned, owning a home, when the project basically, when it gets to us, often major repairs are needed, but, once we're done with the repairs, really what's next is the question, right? So preventative maintenance is incredibly important. It can save a lot of money and hassle in the long run. So, one thing that we come across a lot with our clients is water damage. So, these come from leaks in the ceilings, sometimes roof drains. A lot of the triple deckers and multifamily homes have roof drains. And so, there's pooling water and ice associated with those. And, if those aren't cleaned regularly, you get ice dams and you get damage. So that's a very simple way just to, keeping those clean and free of leaves and debris is actually a really easy way to save money in the long run and not have a huge rehab project in the end. So we encourage our existing clients sort of at the end of the process to do regular maintenance on their homes. Our project funding itself is really for the larger rehab and renovation work, as I mentioned. Not all of our projects are emergency loans. As Jennifer mentioned, we do rehab work towards improving quality of life for homeowners, in addition to code and safety issues as well. So, and we, in addition to our program, we also work with partner organizations to get funding for projects, and those are all dependent on client-specific needs. So, for example, we recently had a homeowner with limited mobility who lived in East Cambridge. He has a multifamily condo, and with grant money through the city, and we bundled that with a a no interest loan through Metro Boston Housing, who's one of our partner organizations. They deal mainly with accessibility issues. And they're a lender, so we were able to actually help her install a stair chair and make modifications to her bathroom and allow her to stay in place and not have to move out of her unit. So we also, we can help historically significant homes apply for grant funding for exterior rehab work through the Cambridge Historic Commission. They're discretionary, and they, it's really at the discretion of the commission. But if homeowners awarded a grant, that can help pay for windows and roofs and porches, facades in certain circumstances. And they're granted in connection with additional work, generally through a HIP loan that either myself or Jennifer would originate. And the last piece that's sort of a big piece is lead. So we work with Mass Housing on the Get the Lead Out program. They offer 0% deferred loans to homeowners looking to do lead abatement in their home. So a lot of different options for homeowners. We try to sort of, on a case-by-case basis, just figure out what's appropriate and what makes the most sense for each homeowner.
That's very helpful information from both of you. And, it sounds like there is a lot to consider financially and also to understand about your home in general. And I'm just wondering, is there a sort of home ownership course or home repair course that exists? I'm not sure if there is, so I may be putting you on the spot. Either one of you can answer it. And just, how do you know, again, what you don't know in terms of how to take care of your home?
I think it's to me, it's like getting an education on your home. I'm a homeowner as well. My sweet husband does all the repairs. I don't do any repair. But if I was by myself and I would be looking for different things. I'd be looking for things that may go bad. I mean, Ethan talked well about the leaves. That's a huge issue. Roofs and gutters and those kind of sort of small things that add up over time, and they cost money if it's not maintained. And so our goal is really to educate people on their home so that they know within, I do a seasonal look through, right? A seasonal, if you think about the spring, summer, fall, if you look in the summer, what's coming up, winter's coming, right? Ethan talked about ice dams, certain things like that. You want to make sure that your home is free of debris around. And these little things add up to big things. And we do a lot of education around, what to look for in your own home, because you need to know what's going on in your own home in order to save money. That's really the key. You want to begin to save money from home improvement by doing the small things over time. It adds up to the big things over time. So when you have a major repair, then you want to keep your funds for what you really want to have done, which is to change systems or change a roof or do something, windows or something big like that. So the small items really keep you free from the bigger items, if that makes any sense. So, we do a lot of education. We are also planning around, doing some DIYs, and, this is in the works, the proposal is in the works, but we really feel that, like a first-time home buyer, after home, post-purchase education, I'm a certified post-purchase educator, and I feel that that's so important because nobody gives you a manual to say, here you go. This is what you need to do after you buy a home to keep it out of distress, right? And so I feel that that's very important. And thank you for bringing that subject up.
Thank you. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I would agree wholeheartedly with everything Jennifer said. One small item that's sort of a life safety thing that we do see a lot is we'll find, carbon monoxide and smoke detectors. People don't change the batteries. They just take them out when they start chirping, and that can be a real issue. So, recommendation there, it's very simple, is just every time daylight savings comes, just put a new 9-volt battery in there and they'll stay current forever. So little things like that can add up. You obviously want to be safe, do preventative maintenance. You can even just go online and they have, what to do monthly, what to do on a seasonal basis. We try to educate our homeowners on that, but it's really applicable to everybody, not just to clients. So very important.
That's terrific. It's kind of the first part of our webinar today was communicate with your loan officer. And I think be able to communicate with your home.
Yes.
And or the resources that are available. So even if someone does communicate with their home and does their monthly or their seasonal check-ins, an emergency can come up. So I think, you talked about roofs, ice dams. So I wondered if you could both talk about options for the situations that, for emergency situations, and how does someone go about accessing support for home repairs in general? Jennifer?
So the first thing they would do is contact us, info@homeownersrehab.org. Comes to me, and I go through some preliminary questions around what their needs are. If it's an emergency, we can get that process turned around really quickly, because the worst thing you could do is postpone a home improvement emergency, especially if it's something like a leaky roof. It would get worse. So, systems that's broken within the wintertime, we can actually push that really fast through the system. And then you send in all the paperwork, we get that going, and our inspector comes out to look at the work and does some estimation, and we get the ball rolling, because we know that every emergency really is a dent in the home's sort of structural exterior. So we try to do as much as we can, and there are funds available that we can access in order to ensure that, again, the home reduces the stress state that it's in, because a home is one of the largest investments you can make. And so we do our part to really, we prefer that people don't wait for an emergency, but we know that life happens, right? Emergencies happen. And so we're always willing to go above and beyond to help that homeowner to ensure that emergency is taken care of right away. But sending in those documents as soon as possible, getting through the process, getting, qualified, vetted contractors, and ensuring the work is done in a professional and very, very professional manner is one of the things that we pride ourselves on. And we do a lot of feedback work. And one of the things that they tell us is that, this process is so overwhelming, the home improvement program, and I've done several of them, and I've been overwhelmed, and I do this. So it is a very, very overwhelming process. So we try to take people through a hands-on approach, as well as give them the authority. This is their home, this is their project. But we are the guides. We are the guides to help people get through the process and not get overwhelmed where they get stuck. And so we are the guides to help them, as Ethan, as well as, doing that project to make it look good, make them feel safe in their home, and also make the home free of distress.
Terrific.
Yeah, I would just add, I think we're very lucky to be working in Cambridge. I think we have a really robust program that's sort of a good stopgap in these situations where there's an emergency. So yeah, like Jennifer said, HRI and Justice Start, we both offer these loans to income qualified homeowners. So right now, the income limits are 80% of area median income, can go up to 120 in certain neighborhoods. So as long as you qualify, we can, the city and our organizations will work quickly to get you the financing and technical assistance you need. If you don't qualify, there's several bankers on the panel here who I'm sure would love to talk to you.
Yes,
as well.
absolutely. Yes.
Terrific. Well, thank you both so very much. We're going to move just for a few minutes into the questions and answers that have been posted through the Q&A chat. And the first one was, can I get how do you get a loan during pandemic time when I've been temporarily out of work? Is that, and anyone can jump in and answer.
So I would, that's actually a perfect question, because I feel like as I talked about work history, I did not address the issue of being laid off or furloughed. And many people experienced this over the past year as a direct impact of COVID-19. And when you have been laid off, if you're currently laid off, you would need to wait until you are working again. And once you go back, it could be that you go back to the same job that they are able them to bring you back, or it could be a different job, but that different job would need to be in the same type of industry. So it'd be the work would need to correlate and be similar. many people are also using this time to pivot into new industries. And when you do pivot into a new industry and a very different type of job, then what you're going to want to do is make sure you talk with that lender to see if you can create an explanation and create that pattern. And you may be able to, and if not, then that just means you need to wait another 2 years. And for those who are self-employed, one key thing is to remember that we look at 24 months average of net income. And so if you have had your income impacted and reduced, great, and that's happened to many people, then we are looking at that will impact the amount of income you have available to calculate the loan amount that you qualify for. So that could also be a piece that sort of says, okay, I may need to push homeownership ahead a little bit so I can increase that net income to be able to increase the loan amount that I qualify for.
Thank you. Another question is, are there aspects or services to consider for members of marginalized communities and identities? So I guess, are there any specific, opportunities, resources? I know sometimes they are for vets, veterans, or I think, Tim, you mentioned the folks who are I forgot what the word you used, but heroes. So I don't know if there are any for people of color. We know about redlining. Are there other sort of targeted resources that folks should access or look into?
There really aren't, because of the Fair Lending Act. We're not really allowed to target one based on certain items, and those sex, race, ethnicity, those type of things. Where the HEROES program I mentioned is by occupation, and it's not one of the other protected classes. So unfortunately, there's no programs that we have for marginalized communities. Now, that's not to say that there may be some out there that are supported by, a special interest group with something of that sort. And certainly if there is one, we'd be more than happy to work with them on that, and that falls back onto perhaps down payment assistance and that type of thing, that if it's a legitimate group behind this, giving the down payment assistance, we certainly would talk to them and see what we can put together for them.
And then just to add to that, the one thing that I can think of, it's not Cambridge specific, the Massachusetts Alliance, it's MAHA, Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance, has a new match savings programs for first generation home buyers. So if you would be the first generation in your family, the first home buyer in your family to buy, then that might be an opportunity where you save $2,000 to $2,500, and then that's matched. So that is an opportunity that you might want to look into.
Great, thank you. Did you want to add to that, Mike?
No, that sounded very interesting.
Yeah,
about that one. Thank you.
So
Yes.
we're all learning.
Yep.
And someone asked, is there a one-stop shopping website to check out for home buying classes? And can it be shared on the webinar? We certainly can. The city does have classes. I don't know if anyone wants to speak specifically to that.
One that I've been using a lot during the pandemic, because a lot of these in-person classes that we're so used to haven't been happening, is the one through Fannie Mae. It's frameworkhomeownership.org. And they're offering online classes. That's where a lot of my folks have been going for the last year. Frameworkhomeownership.org.
Terrific.
Another site you could visit is the Mass Housing Partnership website, which is mhp.net. So again, it's not .com, it's .net, mhp.net. And in there, they do have a section that has all the CHAPA approved courses, which is the course you want to take in Massachusetts, and they list them whether they're in person, which are very few, or if any, but it lists all the online availability courses as well. So it's a great resource, and it's statewide. So.
And just to tack on to what Tim just said, you can also go directly to CHAPA, which is Citizens Housing and Planning Association, to find all of the approved classes. And it's all, when you take a CHAPA approved class where the education provider is approved, then you can have access to mortgage products for first-time home buyers and down payment assistance. So that really gives you some affordability savings there.
Terrific. Thank you so very much. And then Community Development Department here in Cambridge, they offer a monthly class. Registration for June will be online on the website next week, so please check that out. I don't see any other questions posted. I don't know if anyone has any closing remarks or words of wisdom that they would like to share.
I would just like to say that I know there's quite a few people on the seminar today, and I think that's great for mid-afternoon. And I hope that they spread the word, because this is being recorded, and they get out there. But try to learn as much as you can. Take one of the courses. As I said, we as a bank have a very introductory seminar. It's a 1-hour seminar. It is not a CHAPA approved course because it's not long enough, but it does fill a gap or start the process for a lot of people. We do have one coming up on, I guess it's May 11th, and you can sign up on our website, which is ecsb.com, and it is virtual, so you can attend that. And those attendees, we will give a $1,000 closing cost credit if they buy in one of our, what we call our community reinvestment towns, which is not only Cambridge, but most of the surrounding cities and towns as well. So keep learning and get out there and start buying.
Terrific. Michelle or Mike, any closing remarks?
I would just say education and patience. Just keep at it. It's not a surprise to anybody that it's a difficult market, but we do see people buy. We do close loans. People are buying their first homes in this market, and just keep building your team and asking questions and getting information, and you can make it happen.
And I concur with everything they said. Thank you for having us. And we just need some people to sell their houses. We got people that want to buy, and we need them to sell.
That's right.
There you go. There you go. Jennifer, any closing thoughts on?
Yeah, I would say, we're in spring, so get ready for winter. Don't wait for the cold season to start to take care of your home. If there are things that are glaring, check it out. Make a list of all the things that you feel may be necessary, and then go through that list and hire someone who's reputable to help fix those items now. But if you have larger items, contact us at info@homeownersrehab.org, and we will help you to get ready for the winter, because it's coming.
Terrific. Ethan?
I would just concur with what Jennifer said. You can, you can reach out to HRI, or you can reach out to Just to Start for your rehab needs. We're a resource here for income qualified homeowners in the city, and we'd love to hear from you.
Great. And actually, I'm going to throw in one more question to Jennifer and Ethan. We heard of websites to check out, products, loans, get information. We know that folks can go to you or to HRI or Just to Start. Is there a good place for folks to find, Jennifer, as you said, reputable contractors or, maintenance folks? Where do you go for that? Or do they go to you?
I would go to the state's website. They have a huge page of just what to look for in a contractor, tips and tricks and tools. about what to look for a contractor. You can look at their contractor licenses to really vet them. You can look at the insurance. I mean, there's a lot of education as well on the state's website. And that is the state office regarding home improvement loans. Also, if you are concerned about this is one of the things that comes up a lot. If you're concerned about a contractor or you have been scammed, go to the Attorney General's office. You can also file a complaint there because they curate all the information around, that's one of the biggest scammers, the home improvement contracts. And that's why it's so important to come to us and just to start, because we vet, a lot of the contractors. We don't recommend them, but we vet them because that's our duty and that's our goal, to ensure that every homeowner gets a professional work done. And so that's our goal in order to do that. So, but the homeowner can do that themselves, way in advance before they hire anyone. And so those are the two places where they can look to ensure that they have confidence in doing their home improvement project.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add, if you are doing it on your own, make sure they're licensed and insured, and that you get multiple bids, and that you really do your due diligence and vetting.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. I think this concludes our panel. I want to thank those who attended also, and as Tim and others have said, please let others know. There's a lot of resources here in Cambridge, so please get in touch with folks. We are going to put up a slide at the end to show the contact information. I also want to thank Stephanie Farrell, who has provided closed captioning for us. And I also want to just let you know that there will be upcoming webinars. The next one will be in June. We're going to try to do monthly webinars on a variety of housing topics. So please stay in touch via social media, by contacting us, and by following our city's website. Thank you so very much.